are about to listen to four white men discuss a Star Trek episode that deals with racial and gender-based discrimination in the midst of the loudest worldwide protest for equality ever? We understand that our voices are not the ones that need to be heard right now, but wanted to use what platform we do have to show our support for the Black Lives Matter movement, because being a fan of Star Trek means believing not just that differences shouldn't lead to discrimination, but that they should be celebrated. We'd like to encourage you to support the Black Lives Matter movement and the brave people out protesting for a restructuring of our systematically racist criminal justice system by visiting blacklivesmatter.com, contributing to a local bail fund, or just by seeking out Black content creators to break out of the racist echo chamber that so many of us are stuck inside of. And now jokes.
Can you do it in a Shredder voice?
That was good. He was completely serious, by the way. We need to hear that in Shredder voice.
I can't even remember what Shredder sounds like.
Yeah, I've just heard the ad for your other podcast so many times. I thought that.
Yeah.
It's a good ad.
So here's the thing. We goof off on this podcast, and I think we can still have fun with this. It is a very serious topic. It's gonna be weird tonally. Mm-hmm. Like, Eric and I picked this episode. MCI, you might have been in the conversation too. Yes. And we're like, yeah, this will be good. And it's a great episode. I'm really excited to talk about it, but it is going to make for, I think, a little bit of a strange episode. But we are still going to try to have fun with it. But it is not because we are making light of the situation that's happening in the world. It's because we try to have fun with this show. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I guess I can't speak for all of you, but that's where I'm at.
I mean, I think as fans, we love all the nerdy stuff about Star Trek, but when it really comes down to it, it's more than just the cheesy, special effects. Star Trek's about something. Yeah, it's about the philosophy at its core. It's about all of us working together towards a better future.
Yep.
How's the saying go? Infinite diversity, infinite combinations.
Yep.
That's
yep.
And I think this episode is super relevant right now, but it's always been relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not supposed to say my thoughts on the episode, but
it's hard not to.
Yeah,
I guess we should get there, right?
Should we talk about it first, like what we think?
Let's do our normal thing. Okay. Hey Tyler, what's this episode we're watching?
Do we write down the number and stuff?
Notes. Yeah. I did write it down for you.
I see the name of the episode. I don't see the number.
It's immediately before the name of the episode.
I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Jeez, Tyler. We're watching Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 13, Far Beyond the Stars. I even wrote it out in case, I didn't do DS9, just in case you got confused and forgot what the D and the S stood for.
That's great.
Yeah, so I guess I should tell you which episode this is if you don't know which episode this is. This is the episode where Captain Sisko obviously had something stressful happen. I don't really know what. He's in some kind of stressful situation where he made a decision and something bad happened and he doesn't know if he made the right decision. And he's like, I'm going to step down, and his dad's here. And then he has like a mental breakdown and he's imagining the past, the 1950s, 60s-ish time frame. And he's imagining he's a writer writing about Deep Space Nine for a magazine.
I thought you said a rioter.
A rioter? No.
Yeah, no, writer.
Writer.
Yeah.
Yes,
just to clarify.
With his hands. But yeah, so he's a writer. He really threw me off. And he's just dealing with everyday racism in the workplace, police brutality, and then he questions what is real at the end. So, yep, that's the episode.
Did anybody have an alternate title for this one?
Cardassian-splaining? Sorry,
It was all a dream.
What if it's all a dream? I had, what if Star Trek was fiction?
Deep thoughts.
I didn't come up with one.
So deep. So I wrote notes for this. We've been experimenting with how we do notes. I think I probably wrote too many notes, but as Tyler pointed out, I'm also the one who talks the fastest. So hopefully my very long notes will average out to be lengthwise, speaking-wise, the same as shorter notes. So
they were well-written notes.
Before you do that, can we talk about the fact that this is the first episode of Deep Space Nine that I've ever seen?
Yeah, please do. I would love to hear your thoughts on Deep Space Nine and all of its characters.
I don't like the font. The font for the logo.
Font?
I don't like
it's
it.
my favorite Star Trek logo.
Really?
That's what you focus on?
We're starting at the beginning, and that's one of the first things you see is the font. And I don't like the font. It's like round and bubbly, and it looks very different from the other Star Treks. And
What did you think of the theme song?
Yes,
that's good. I can actually remember this one. It's like dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
It was like a good theme park ride. Landing line.
It kind of reminds me of a John Williams theme. It sounds like the Superman theme, and I love it. It's really epic.
So characters. This is a very confusing episode for learning characters, because
This is your
we
first
see
one
like
ever.
Yeah, so there's returning characters that you don't really see as themselves that I recognize, like O'Brien and Worf, which I didn't realize that was Worf until you see him as Worf for like a second. Yeah. So I know those two, and then otherwise I think the only names I picked up on are Benjamin Sisko, the captain, and I think his son, Jake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are the only names I call it. And I only briefly remember them referring to him as his son. So I was like, I think it's his son. They look the age difference doesn't look enough. So I wasn't sure.
I am going to need, as we go through the episode, we'll get there.
Okay.
This is such a weird episode to be our first episode of Deep Space Nine.
But before we get into the actual episode, what do you think of the station itself? Deep Space Nine itself.
Good question.
I know you didn't get to see much of it in this episode, but from the titles
basically all you see is in the titles. The design looks pretty cool. I don't really have much more to say about it.
I have exactly 0 tattoos, but there's about a 50-50 shot that the first tattoo I get will be of the Deep Space Nine station.
Oh, nice.
I love it so much.
You stumbled
like a back
over your
tattoo?
words. So it's not like you said the first tattoo you'll get is of the D.
Gotta get the D.
The Enterprise
Becky's
D.
gonna get a tattoo of the D, meaning the Enterprise D. Yeah.
Okay. Does she know about this?
That's yeah. It was a Christmas present that we're gonna get tattoos together. She's gonna get the D, and I'm most likely gonna get Deep Space Nine.
So I'm literally planning on getting a USS Discovery tattoo.
Nice.
I think that's gonna be my next one.
I have multiple tattoos. I have no intentions of getting a Star Trek tattoo.
MC is too cool for us.
MC, if we convince Tyler to also get a Star Trek tattoo, then will you also get one so that it's like we all got tattoos for the show?
Maybe.
We could start
when we get the Patreon up and running.
Yeah, go fund me.
Patreon
Yeah,
goal.
Patreon.
Listen.
All right.
Listen here. I do currently have the Deep Space Nine background with the wormhole opening up. Nice. As on my main computer.
MC, you maybe your audio cut out for a minute. I've already got dibs on Deep Space Nine, so you're gonna have to get Voyager tattooed on your body.
No. You
can have the NX-01.
Neelix.
Nah.
Oh god, just a big portrait of Neelix, just a chest tattoo of Neelix. You can get a tattoo of Neelix's face on your face.
No. Oh god. I was thinking. At most, I might get the Starfleet symbol, or maybe even
That's classy.
What would be better would be the Klingon.
The Imperial logo.
Yeah, the Klingon Imperial logo.
Nice.
Red and black.
Mm-hmm.
Teaser?
Yeah.
We all got to start doing Klingon and Duolingo, I'm telling you. In the teaser, In his office on Deep Space Nine, Benjamin Sisko mourns the loss of the USS Cortez in an expository scene specifically designed to make Tyler's head spin. Cardassians, Dominion, and Jem'Hadar, oh my. Their grieving is interrupted when Papa Sisko pokes his head in to remind Ben that he left Earth to spend time with his family, not to hear his son whine about how hard it is to be in charge. But then, outside the office, a bespectacled, besuited businessman from a bygone era peeks in as he passes by, then poofs away. Later, Ben asks his lady friend to stay safe in space when a ball player wanders by. The next thing he knows, Ben finds himself getting hit by a cab in the middle of a street in the 50s, but then wakes up back on Deep Space Nine in the sickbay. There's a bunch more proper nouns that get dropped by the Doctor, Bajor, prophets, and visions, and then Ben finds himself as Benny, looking at a pulp novel while wearing a suit, with a small man mocking his taste in fiction on the streets of San Francisco in the 1950s.
Well said.
Tyler, we didn't tell you anything about the 1950s of it all, did we?
No.
No, we just said that it was a good idea to probably cover this episode this week.
This was one of the first ones I thought of when we started coming up with this show. This was an episode I definitely wanted to cover at some point. And it just, with everything going on right now, it just felt really relevant. It really resonates right now. For reasons we'll get into.
As far as this opening goes, Tyler, I mean, you said, like, he's stressed about something. Do you have any guesses about what's happening with the Federation right now that's causing Ben Sisko such stress?
No, he mentioned something about thinking the war was over. I think there was an alien race that started with a J thrown around, and then he also mentioned Cardassian space.
And you don't know what Cardassians are, right?
I think we briefly see some in this episode, maybe? See one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a flash.
Yeah.
A flash
there's
forward.
a character who says something about really liking the design of the Cardassians, and I'm assuming he normally plays one.
It's Cardassians. I like the way you described them, especially the neck ridges.
Oh, right. No, he does not.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe.
I figured.
think you'll have to remind me if you've got a note on that when it comes up.
Which...
He says something about their fins.
Is it the illustrator?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. He does not play a Cardassian normally.
Okay.
He's a great character.
He is.
He also wears
what
makeup.
What a fun episode that makes no sense for Tyler.
Yeah. I love that guy.
Any other thoughts on the teaser? See, this is the problem. I feel like maybe I made my notes too detailed. You guys got a few things to talk about other than what?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Stuff.
Well, okay, so there's a moment here where Sisko's talking about what's going on, and he says basically that every time they have a victory, there's a setback. And I think it's a good metaphor for not only what goes on later on in the story, but really a lot of what's going on right now. You know, it seems
for any campaign for social justice.
Yeah, there's always going to be setbacks, and you can't give up. You have to push on through. Yeah. And I think that's what his dad's trying to get him to.
I mean, yeah, he's like on the edge of quitting Starfleet. It sounds like.
Yeah,
and his dad's
at the beginning.
Like,
yeah.
Did you guys feel like his dad was kind of cold in this? Like, I mean, I wrote about like he's not here to hear him whine, but I really felt like he was kind of like, okay, I don't care. Like that's not.
He traveled across the galaxy to come visit him, and he's all moping about his job.
Yeah. Now, well, that's the thing. Like his dad
doesn't care about Starfleet.
No, he doesn't care about outer space. He lives in New Orleans. He runs a restaurant, and that's all he cares about.
Yep.
Is really cooking at his restaurant. And he actually brought Ben up to take over the restaurant, and Ben went into Starfleet, so I'm not sure if
he's probably like serves you right, you know, like
well, I mean, he said he would support him like no matter what he decides
he's
to
a good
do,
dad.
So
maybe it's time for me to step down. Let someone else make the tough calls.
I see. No one is indispensable, son. Not even you. Whatever decision you make, I'll support.
Good dad, just perhaps not the most sensitive to the current situation that Benny's finding himself in.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into what's actually going on. Oliver, stop. I didn't bring the child down. You can't make noise now instead.
I thought that was Atticus. It was like...
No, I left Atticus upstairs with Becky because we were going to have a serious conversation about serious topics. And also dumb jokes. Welcome in Act 1 to the offices of Incredible Tales, a science fiction magazine where Benny Russell works with a colorful cast of characters. After some interpersonal donut-based drama, story assignments are handed out by way of illustrations, including one Benny claims that looks suspiciously like a drawing of Deep Space Nine. The charming look at 50s Americana gets real when the editor of the paper explains that Benny and Kay Eaton, the only female writer on staff, are going to be left out of upcoming staff photos because their readers aren't liberals and intellectuals and won't spend money on stories written by an African-American man. But he didn't say African-American. We'll get back to that. On his way home, Benny is accosted by a pair of cops who step on his drawing, interrogate him for no reason, tell him to watch his tone, and then tell him he's getting off with a warning for nothing? But next time, he won't be so lucky. At his last stop before he gets home, Benny gets called upon by a mysterious preacher to write the words of the Lord, to write the words of the prophets. Benny takes him up on it at home and writes the first words to his story. Captain Benjamin Sisko sat looking out the window. So, a note on language. This script is set in the 50s and uses language that Chaboy's not comfortable with. So I will probably refer to situations involving African-American people or black people. I'm not going to use the language actually used in the show, because while it is appropriate to the area, it's just not stuff I'm good with saying right now.
I think that's understandable. I think that's totally valid.
So let's talk about those donuts. I don't remember the character's name that was complaining about the donuts. Do you? Started with a D, I think.
Oh.
I can pull it up here. I had all the characters because it confusing.
Well, yeah, I keep trying. I want to refer to them as their DS9 counterparts, but Tyler has no connection to that at all. So
Herb Rosif.
Okay.
Herb was the one complaining about the donuts.
Yeah, so he's complaining about the donuts. His boss is like, these donuts are fine. I've been eating donuts my whole life. And he takes a bite and he's like, these are no more than 6 hours old. They're delicious. And then Herb says, delicious my eye. Which I don't think is a thing that anyone would say. They would say delicious my ass.
Especially because delicious my ass, it just has a nice, lyrical flow to it.
Delicious my eye. These are 2 days old and you know it.
That must have been some kind of slang in the early 50s, right?
I don't think so. I think they were just trying to... they use the N-word later, hard R. So I don't know if maybe to get by censors, they're like, well, we can't say any other bad words.
Could be.
That could be.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, they kept the one that's, important, I think.
Yeah.
In this context.
Well, in the context, yeah.
They probably could have had him say they're not delicious. Delicious my eye is just weird. I don't know.
Or the writer of that scene was trying to play a trick or treat on you.
Maybe. It's also someone from the future having a dream about the past. So maybe he's just making up what he thinks they would have talked like back in the day.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because if you think about it, this is an episode written in the 90s about a guy in the 2400s having a dream or something about the 50s.
About a guy writing a story
confusing.
about the 2400s.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out here to Kay Eaton, who was the female writer. She talks about how the world couldn't stand to find out that Casey Hunter was a woman, and this was a very specific call out to DC Fontana,
yes,
who was a prolific writer for Star Trek, the original series and Next Generation, and the animated series too, I believe. So I think that's cool. All these characters are references to writers, but that one is specifically a Star Trek writer.
There's a few references in this scene. They talk about Heinlein, Bradbury. They talk about a lot of very big names in early sci-fi. And some of these guys... So this is actually where Star Trek really started. You had all these pulp magazines, and this is... A lot of those same writers ended up working on the series, on the original series.
Right.
And I thought that was a good call out. But another thing I love about this is that I actually did a lot of research into early sci-fi history last year, I want to say, for a project. And it turns out that there's a lot of African-American and women writers of that era that don't get the credit they deserve. They, like DC Fontana, there was a lot of writers at that time that used pseudonyms, and they basically, they weren't able to be themselves. People just assumed they were white males.
Well, this is somewhat persistent issue. I mean, that's the
Right.
reason J.K. Rowling chose the name J.K. rather than going by her actual name.
Yep.
She's a whole other problematic bag of worms that I'm not going to get into right now.
Yeah.
But that's a very specific, like, current example of somebody who, like, didn't feel like they could be successful as a writer if people were able to see, you know, from the cover of the book that they were a woman, which just, it sucks, man.
Yeah.
This is a great episode that I love, and it's fun, and I like making jokes about Star Trek with you guys, but this episode also made me really sad.
Yeah.
It makes me cry every time. I'm gonna straight up admit it. Like, I get teary-eyed every time.
Yeah.
Especially with that first encounter with the cops.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Like,
yeah, too real right now.
For no reason, he's being harassed by two cops, essentially because the wind took his drawing and it landed on the street, and the cops perceived him as talking to them disrespectfully, I guess, but he wasn't.
They told him to watch his tone when he had no tone whatsoever.
Yeah, like a very like soft voice.
Can I have my drawing back?
Hey, boy. I'd watch that tone of voice if I were you. What are you doing around here?
I work here.
Yeah, where?
In the...
What are you, a janitor?
Awfully well dressed for a janitor.
Which is interesting. Like, Tyler, you'll get to know Cisco more a lot later. Cisco can yell.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Cisco is not a soft... Well,
He's the opposite
Cisco,
of Picard in a lot of ways.
He uses his weapon, or he uses his voice as a weapon. So, like, he can be very soft-spoken. But, like, Benny Russell is a different character in terms of how he behaves.
Oh, yeah.
And a big part of that is that, like, he is very, like, muted in how he communicates.
He doesn't have a voice.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, because the society around him.
Yeah.
That's something that is still happening today, sort of thing. People getting stopped and for no reason, and then police finding a reason to arrest those people.
Yeah,
essentially.
I say we run them in, checking for priors.
Yeah. We gotta be uptown in 15 minutes.
For all the progress, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Which is what Cisco was talking about. So my favorite lines in this scene, or in this act, I should say. The boss says, "I wish it was different." Benny says, "Wishing never changed a damn thing." And he says, "Benny, it's just a photo." And he said, "I'll try to remember that." And that really hit me pretty hard.
It's just a photo.
So much more.
It's not just a photo, and that's I like that Herb calls him out for it. I think he calls him out for it a little bit in this act, and then more later, where Herb is very much on Benny's side and thinks that like, their boss is not being as progressive as he should be, which I think is cool. You know what the bummer about watching this as Tyler's first episode is? We can't talk about the choices that were made in terms of which
the characters
DS9 cast members were cast into which roles. So Tyler's taking his headphones off, and I think it's really interesting.
You can talk about it now. Just let me know when I can come back.
I think it's really interesting that they put the actor who plays Odo in the role of kind of the status quo. Like, he is towing the line and doesn't think that it's the right thing to do, but knows that it is currently, those are the rules.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that fits well with Odo's character in a way that's really depressing to me.
It is.
And Herb, who is normally played by Quark, who pushes against authority all the time, as Quark is in this trying to push forward this sort of liberal action in writing and letting people know it's... Or everyone writes. Everyone has the right to speak out and dream how they want to dream.
For sure. But I also like that Quark, his human character in this episode, what's his name again? Herb? There's hints that he's more of like socialist leaning, whereas Ferengi are very much capitalism. I mean, they're capitalists, so I thought that was kind of funny.
But I think what's cool about that is it's kind of a flip where like the things about Quark that make him a despicable character here are like positive traits.
Oh,
and the things that we love about Odo make him despicable in this. So it's a cool like it's consistent with their characters, but the different context flips the script on how you feel about it. So
that's a great point.
I'm gonna tell Tyler to come back. I don't remember how. Do we just give him a thumbs up? Maybe.
No. Maybe.
Oh yeah, headphones. Yeah. I forgot how we summoned Tyler.
So jumping back to what we were talking about before I took my headphones off, anytime in anything when someone says "I'll remember that," I think of Telltale games where it pops up on the screen and it's like so and so will remember that.
I know exactly what you mean. They should make a Telltale Star Trek game.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Kind of surprised there isn't one.
Yeah, it's
There's a Guardians of the Galaxy one that I've never played, which I don't think they'll be making any more Telltale games.
No,
anymore.
wait, the company went under, right?
Yeah, and they had some bad practices as far as their employees.
No.
They kept everybody on contract and didn't pay them properly and make them work extraordinary hours. But their games are very good, so
I've heard the same thing about a few companies. Blizzard.
Yeah.
EA.
Yeah.
Well, EA just sucks in general. Sorry, did I say that? Oh, man.
Yeah, Rockstar makes people work crazy long hours to make shit games like Red Dead Redemption 2, so they can just go burn in a fire. That game sucks balls.
It's on sale right now. I'm thinking about buying it.
It's so bad. It's just boring. You just ride a horse around for a long time.
It's long.
Nothing happens. That game the map is too big. They were so excited about the fact that they didn't stop to think if they should.
And there's like all these collectibles and
collectibles.
It's such a long game. And anyway.
So back to DS9. Back to the 50s.
We got to talk about the mysterious preacher before.
Right.
Preacher.
Played by Sisko's dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he, of course, dropped some lines in there. Did you catch any of the wording in that, Tyler?
Nothing standing out.
Okay. Well, there's a few things in there that are relevant to the character.
Once again, proper noun salad, where if you've been watching the show, you're like, oh, those are important
meaning.
proper nouns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, prophet is always a big word when it comes to this sort of thing.
You'll find out why someday.
Yeah.
Act 2?
Yeah.
And then, should we go to commercial break before Act 2? Or should I read Act 2 and then we'll go to commercial break?
Go ahead and go to a commercial break and then we'll come back.
Okay, we will be back in Act 2 to find out about what the next line of his story was after Captain Benjamin's... Wait, okay, before we go to Act 2, what do you guys think about that as an opening line to a story? Captain Benjamin Sisko sat looking out the window.
Accurate?
Are we editing this for...
a lot of the...
Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, well, that's what he does a lot of the time, because there's one right outside his office, so he's always staring at it.
That's true.
So, did you already introduce him as Captain Benjamin Sisko earlier?
That's first line of the story. Captain Benjamin Sisko sat looking out the
I think that works then. I think that's perfect.
I think it's weird that he used his own first name for his character.
He's not... he's Benny.
Benny, it's different.
And it's like the captain's
that's
Benjamin.
That's a nickname, I think.
No, his name's Benny, and the captain's name is Benjamin. I'm going to go look out a window for a while we play some commercials. By which I mean I'm going to go meet my brother to let the dog in the house, and I'll be right back. I'm Troy.
And I'm MC.
And we host the best animated shows ever so far.
Where we watch, discuss, and rank every animated show ever, eventually.
Listen in by searching for the best animated shows ever so far on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or head to probablywork.com.
Join the conversation by finding us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram by searching BASESF Cast. That's BASESFCAST.
And don't change the channel. Act 2. Benny dances his way down the street to the diner where his fiancée works, delighted at having finished his story. We meet a ball player who explains segregation in the major leagues, and a kid named Jimmy who's trying to sell a watch he found. Benny tells him about his story, and Jimmy laughs at the idea of a black man on the moon. Back at the office, the entire staff loves the Deep Space Nine story Benny wrote, except the editor, who flatly explains that there's no way he can print a story with a black captain. He tells Benny that the only way he can print it is if he makes the captain white. And Benny's like, heck no, techno, which I dig. That he immediately is like, that's not what I wrote. Like, that's not my story.
That's not what this is
it's
about.
Not canon.
Yeah. One, it's. I love how. I mean, the two scenes work together really well because the kid, Jimmy, who is like laughing at Benny's writing in general because he's like, you write about like white dudes flying around in spaceships. Who cares about that? And Benny's like, no. This one's about us. And the idea that the kid's just like, that's ridiculous. Like that just wouldn't happen is so disheartening.
Writing stories about a bunch of white people living on the moon. Man, who cares about that?
Hey, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm writing about us.
White colored people on the moon.
Oh, check out next month's issue.
Colored people on the moon. This might do that.
And then the fact that the editor is immediately like, yeah, that won't happen in fiction because nobody's ever going to print it. It's just, it's kind of this like, Benny's so hopeful about it and just gets shut down.
Not just that, but because it is sci-fi and there's aliens, like little different species, and that seems to be more accepted than the idea at this time.
Oh, I like it all right. It's good. It's very good. But I can't print it.
Why not?
Oh, come on, Benny. Your hero's a Negro captain. The head of a space station, for Christ's sake.
What's wrong with that?
People won't accept it. It's not believable.
And men from Mars are?
Stay out of this, Herb.
You can even have a woman with a worm in her belly, which that's one of my favorite lines in this scene is the new secretary, I guess, of the office being like, oh, that's disgusting. It's really interesting, but it's disgusting.
Totally.
Yeah, so let's go back to the diner, where we see Worf's character. And
Willie Hawkins, the baseball player.
I didn't recognize him at all because I've only ever seen him as Worf, like in makeup.
Well, and he also doesn't have the Worf voice on. Like, he's just a normal dude.
Worf is kind of like this awkward guy, it seems like, and everything we've seen. And then this guy's super charismatic, so it's like different.
Worf's got like a batleth up his butt all the time. And this guy is just like super laid back and is like all about hooking up with hotties in the diner and stuff.
He wasn't all shields up.
He's great.
Shields down.
Yeah, Worf doesn't seem like he likes to have fun, and this guy definitely likes to have fun.
Oh yeah. I like how he's like signing autographs in the diner. That was great.
He talks about the fact that he plays on, I guess, everyone else on the baseball team is white, probably. And I don't know her name, but whatever, Sisko's wife, I don't know her name as the other character or as her own normal character in the show, so I don't know what to call her.
The waitress at the diner's name is Cassie.
Okay. Well, Cassie is like, what are you doing over here? Like, you could live anywhere you want to. You're this big famous baseball player. And he's like, well, they barely accept me on the team as is. They're not going to want me living near them. He's like, I'm a hero when I live in the black part of town, essentially. But if I lived where they lived, I would be discriminated against. It's just, so even somebody who's a sports hero is not, Yeah. If he lived there, even though he's famous, the cops would probably be like, what are you doing here? Weirdly, we watched an episode of French Prince of Bel-Air yesterday that deals with exactly that issue where Carlton, his family's loaded and they live in a really nice part of town and stuff and everybody kind of knows them there. But he and Will end up going on a road trip and get arrested immediately. And it's a super it's a really good episode about prejudice cops. And it's the 5th episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And it has a lot of really...
That's powerful.
Yeah, powerful. That's the word I was looking for. Really powerful conversations about how police treat black people. And it's very, very good. And it we weren't seeking it out. We were just watching French Prince of Bel-Air. And then I'm like, oh, hey, another episode that deals with this topic because this is such a prevalent thing and has been, for our country's entire history that it's just...
not just your country.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over the world, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's happening here in Australia as well, especially with the indigenous population, the Aboriginals. It's because colonizers come over, that they do what they do, and stuff doesn't just work itself out.
Yeah.
Takes work. It takes work. It takes people. It takes not just the government, but everyday people need to do their part to help change.
Oh yeah, I mean,
this idea and
legislation's important, but that doesn't even happen if there aren't people behind it. And legislation means nothing if the people don't enforce it. You know, if the people don't make it matter. You know, otherwise it's just words on a page. I've been talking about this like for the past 3 weeks straight.
Yeah. I'm trying to come up with a joke that happened in this sequence, and I can't. O'Brien writes about robots. Ha ha.
I do love that keeps coming up.
I like robots. They're very efficient.
I don't remember who does it. Maybe it's Herb. But they're like reading a story, and then someone's like, Deep Space Nine. Now that's an intriguing title. Like that's a good title.
I do love that. It's like
that had to have been like one of the guys who came up with the concept for Deep Space Nine pat themselves on the back. That other show's called Voyager. Blah. Ours is called Deep Space Nine. That sounds way cooler.
Deep Space Nine is a very intriguing title.
So Tyler, for a little bit of context, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Voyager and Deep Space Nine actually ran concurrently. Deep Space Nine started up while Next Gen was in its 5th season, and then Voyager started right after Next Gen ended. So DS9 and Voyager ran side by side for a while, and DS9 was like a massive failure compared to Voyager in terms of viewing numbers. Yeah, after the fact, not everyone, but most people like DS9 better. But what's fun is the reason DS9 got to do cool storytelling that makes it like stand up to time better is because like the Star Trek establishment was like, that show sucks. We're not even going to pay attention to what they're doing over there. You just do whatever you want on DS9.
And they're like,
we're going to focus all our attention on Voyager. And so they're like, cool, we're going to do serialized storytelling then.
They did some really interesting stories.
And they were like, serialized storytelling, that's for soap operas. We don't do that in science fiction.
They pioneered that, and that's like all shows now.
Yeah, but anyway, so I like that scene because I do feel like that is the writers kind of gloating a little bit.
Not just for back then, like them gloating for back then. It's like, listen, we understand the stories we're telling are going to be more poignant than the ones that are going on over there later on in life as well.
Because they're timeless.
So it's like, yeah, because these stories just keep happening, and of course they're just like, yep, we're looking towards the future.
They were literally looking towards the future. This feels prophetic, like the Reverend was saying about prophecy. I don't know.
Having seen exactly one episode of Deep Space Nine and one episode of Voyager.
That's right.
I could definitely tell that this show stands up to the test of time better.
I think with Voyager,
and both were like weird flashback time travel episodes
where people had something going on with their head. Yeah.
I think with DS9 they were so different from what people were used to with Star Trek, and that made people feel uncomfortable a little bit. I think Voyager was more nostalgia. It was like a return to TOS era a little bit, because it was all exploration and random craziness, you know?
I hope we watch another Deep Space Nine episode soon, so you can get like an actual Deep Space Nine episode.
Barely counts.
Because there's like so much I want to talk about with the characters and things. Anyway,
quick question about Deep Space Nine in general: is the cast mostly like people of color, or is it just like this is like centric on Cisco this episode? So if his family and stuff are involved.
What I will say is that it has...
It's mostly not human characters.
It is not mostly people of color. Yeah, it is the most diverse cast, I think, in Star Trek, both like in universe and also in terms of the actors portraying them.
A little bit.
But the actors are still primarily white dudes, probably. Like if you added up all of the like reoccurring characters, it's probably majority white dudes still. But it does a better job than most
But there's way more female characters in this cast.
Yeah.
And they're good. Yeah. They're well written female characters. Very good backstories.
Yeah.
Next Gen has 2 female characters. Yeah. Really, like two main ones, and they like neither of them get much to do most of the time. DS9 also has 2 main female characters, but it has a whole lot more female side characters. But also those 2 female characters are like they're literally like. Both of them are in my top 5 favorite characters in all of Star Trek.
And they're focus for a lot of
episodes. They're very,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't notice in this episode, but do they make the female characters' uniform sexier?
A little bit.
One, absolutely not. One, like, kind of, but not as bad as, like, I'm going to put you in a low purple
it's not Uhura.
Jumpsuit.
It's not like a short skirt or anything.
it is not Uhura. It is not Deanna Troi. It is not 7 of 9. Like, the uniform actually looks, functional. It's tighter fitting than the men's uniform, but it looks functional. And we see men wearing the same uniform, which is points.
And there's a reason why her uniform's different too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's like an in-universe explanation for it. So, but I can't tell you what it is, Tyler, because you don't know anything about Deep Space Nine yet.
I also don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Also that. This is ridiculous. Act 3, back at the diner, Benny's despondent, knowing his story will not see the light of day. His fiancée reassures him that everything's going to be okay because they'll just take over the diner and he can be a lion chef. But Benny isn't interested in any business that's not writing. When the baseball player sees by, Benny sees him as a Klingon for just a moment and then leaves in a rush. On the way home, he runs into the priest again, who reminds Benny that it's his duty to write the words of the prophets. Benny heads home and writes and writes and writes so late into the night that he forgets his date with his fiancée. But they share a little dance in the living room, and it's really sweet and romantic until he starts having flashes where suddenly he's in Benjamin Sisko's quarters, and then he's back in his room, and then he's in Benjamin Sisko's quarters again, and then he has a mental breakdown.
I love that scene with his dad, or the Reverend, I guess. The priest, sorry. He says, write the words, Brother Benny. And I just, that's some good stuff right there.
He talks about how he needs to write the words to like show them the light, to help them open their eyes.
It's not just double meaning. I think there's triple meaning going on here. Like within the context of the story, literally writing the words, but also speaking out against injustice. Yeah. And then also, the prophet
the
thing
whole
on top of that.
Angle.
It's crazy. This episode is so meta, and that's why I love it.
It makes for a terrible introduction to Deep Space Nine, though.
I think it works on its own. I mean, I personally do. What do you think, Tyler?
Should I save that for the end?
It's up to you guys.
Or,
sorry.
I mean,
ahead of myself.
Yeah, I'll save it for the end. I think it makes more sense.
Have any of you worked in a restaurant? Have you all done restaurant work?
No.
It sucks.
Erik has. I haven't, but like I feel like there are two responses people have to working in a restaurant, which is either it sucks or it's like, yeah, this is easy, I could just do this forever. Like I know a couple people who like are perfectly happy, like, hey, I'm in the back room of a restaurant and like nobody's on my back about stuff, like I can just do my own thing. And
my wife worked in restaurants for a long time and hated it. So
a ferret just crawled into your background, Tyler. It just startled me. I was like, what is that?
Oh, it's Hank. He's coming down.
It also might depend on the restaurant and the boss of the place. There's a lot of factors. It's like any job,
Yeah, in her experience, everyone is on drugs.
I have heard that too.
Well, yeah. That seems to be an important part of the restaurant industry. Do you
remember what time Benny is supposed to pick up?
Is it 10 p.m.?
It is.
That's such a late date. I imagine that's when she gets off work though. Like one of the folks I know who works in restaurants was I met through a coworker when I worked at a mall because she worked the night shift at a restaurant. So like we would get off work at the mall at 10 p.m. and then we'd just go hang out at her restaurant till like 2 a.m. She worked at a Sherry's and there was never any customers in there because it's 11 p.m. at a Sherry's, so there's no one there. So we just would hang out there and drink coffee and hang out.
But he's got like a 9 to 5, so I think.
Yeah. Well, does he?
I don't know.
Except when you're a writer.
You don't sleep.
Your job's not really 9. Yeah,
I can tell you from personal experience.
So if people don't know this, I'm an aspiring sci-fi and fantasy writer, and essentially I've lost about 9 books due to not backing them up.
Oh
so
my
please back
god,
up your
man! I
data.
am so sorry. That is like straight up tragic. I'm not even kidding. I'm sorry.
No, the problem is now, if you're a writer, please do not do this. I've got the ideas for like 4 or 5 books that I've written, and I've tried to start rewriting them. Don't do 4 or 5 projects at once, people.
I have that problem.
Not work.
I totally have that problem.
Yeah.
Everybody on this call has that problem.
Yeah.
This podcast is that problem.
I mean, we all have multiple podcasts. I think we all get that.
Yeah.
I will say, MC, if you ever want to send me anything, I'd love to, help in any way I can, if you need a beta reader or anything.
All writing happens after 11 p.m. in my experience. That's when real.
Do you
good
think it's because
happens.
you start getting delirious and then just all the mental blocks fall away?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's either stay up very late in the night or drugs, just like working in a restaurant. You gotta do one of the two in order to get past those blocks.
So what's great about me is I have insomnia, so there's sometimes where I get like 3 hours sleep a night, and that's great for me then. But all the other times when I actually can sleep, it's like I'm exhausted at that time because I get so little sleep.
I should have named one of my cats Insomnia.
Oh,
that would be a good name for a cat.
Well, they wake me
especially
up.
if they keep you up. Yeah.
I've recently, I know there's no cat in this episode, but I'm going to tell you about a cat anyway.
There might have been a stray cat in a house running by.
You can't subject me to cats when there wasn't a cat.
While watching the episode we were planning to do for this week, there was my cat was sleeping next to me, and like somebody started shooting at someone with a phaser, and then my cat just like jumped to attention. He was like, it scared him
because he saw a laser pointer on screen. He's like, "Where's that laser? Gimme!"
We have one of our cats, Meep, tries to attack the TV occasionally. If something's like flying by, just like start swatting at the TV. It's really cute.
I'm gonna quit this podcast if y'all don't stop talking about cats. We have rules here, and the rules state that I don't have to hear about your cats unless it's a cat episode.
Yeah, otherwise I have to record a new theme song that's like, there's not a cat, but fuck it, here's cats.
Can we do a bonus episode where we review cats?
I have a book about Catstronauts is the name of it. I've never read it.
Catstronauts is an adorable book. I read that with my nephew. It's very good. It's about astronauts, but they're cats.
Yep.
There's a book about Star Trek cats on Amazon. Looks very cute.
So anyway,
do we talk about Act 3?
Story?
We did talk about Act 3.
Act 4.
We talked. Wait, Act 3, Bubba. We didn't really talk about anything in Act 3.
It's a quick act, isn't it?
Well, it is. It is super fast. I mean, he's writing more, and his fiance is like, "Why are you writing more of these Benjamin Sisko stories?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
because it's what I got. Like that's where my head's at right now," which I totally get. Like,
sometimes that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to MC's idea of don't do multiple projects. The problem is sometimes you're like, "Oh, dang, a new project popped into my head," and like I'm not going to be able to do anything else until I get something down.
That's something that you'll experience, but it's like once it's out, it's out sort of thing, and that's good. When you finish something, it always feels better. And I think with the story that he was telling, he just didn't feel like it was done. Like he couldn't finish it, which is why he just continues writing it. So it makes perfect sense to me as a creative to you have to finish something before you can start something new.
Do you think he was specifically writing any episodes of the show? Is there a 6-episode arc? Because he wrote 6 stories.
There is actually. Yeah.
There is actually.
A pretty important arc. Oh, man, that's a good point.
I think it happened earlier in season 6, actually.
I was
Maybe
thinking.
not. Maybe,
I was thinking at the end of the show.
It was because he referenced it in the intro. But in the intro when he's talking about how he thought the war was going to be better, he says something that is a specific reference to. I believe it is a 6-episode arc.
I could see that.
So yes, maybe that's what he was writing. We can
every time I watch this episode, I kind of wish that the show had revisited this storyline in some way. I kind of want to know what happens with Benny.
So I'm going to tell you something that didn't happen, and it's kind of a spoiler, but it's a spoiler in that it didn't happen, so I'm going to count it as fair game. There was discussion of having the last shot of Deep Space Nine be the camera pulling back from the set to show that it was a TV set, and to see Benny Russell standing there holding a script.
That would have been amazing. It breaks my heart that that's not how the show ended.
I'm kind of glad it's not how the show ended, but I wish they had filmed it because I want to watch it. But I don't want that to actually be the end of the show. But I would totally watch that scene.
It would really kind of throw a kink in the rest of canon, wouldn't it?
Right, because then nothing in Star Trek. I mean, it goes back to my joke. Like, what if Star Trek was fiction? Like, Act 4. Benny has been busy. He's shown back in the office with the 6 sequels to his initial Deep Space Nine story we were just discussing. He's arguing with the editor, and one of the other writers suggests a potential solution to the fact that the editor's refusing to print it, which he says, what if you make it a dream?
What's that? Just make the ending of your first story, Deep Space Nine, a dream.
Would that make a difference?
Seems like things might actually get on track with this idea. So Benny is celebrating the good news with his fiancée when the preacher shows up again and gives him a bunch of more cryptic stuff to work with. And as they're trying to figure out what the heck this guy's talking about, they hear gunshots. And it turns out that those 2 police officers we've met at the beginning had a run-in with Jimmy, who was quote unquote armed with a crowbar. I think he was trying to steal a car, and they shot and killed him. And as Benny yells at them and tries to push past them to get to Jimmy's side as he's lying dying in the street, the cops proceed to beat Benny to the ground.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's so... This was the act that I've been dreading talking about, because I don't know how we talk about this in we're all
and
just
not talk about
3 of the 4 of us all just scratched our head in the exact same motion where it's like it's fucked, man. This is the shit that's still happening. It was happening
earlier today.
It was happening 70 years ago. It's still happening this year. It's happening today, and it is happening without repercussion in most cases. And it is just vile that this is still an issue that our world deals with.
Yep.
And within the context of this episode, it is heartbreaking because it's coming immediately after this like joyous scene where Benny's like, my story's going to be read. It's not quite exactly how I wrote it.
Progress.
But it works because the framing device they come up with is that it is a black kid who's dreaming about going into space, and like it's so happy, and then it comes crashing down so fast.
And as we were talking about before, this is the scene where we get a flash, the actual beating of Benny is a flash we get of the Cardassians and another alien race who haven't been mentioned and will come up later, hopefully.
We'll get there.
Was it the aliens that started with a J? Because he mentioned some...
No.
Okay.
No. It's not them. It's part of that...
No, that's spoiler territory there.
Well, they mentioned.
But he doesn't know what they mentioned. That's what's so great about it, is that there's so many things in this episode. It's so much.
I do think that it's very poignant that the cops are played by 2 of the main villains from the series.
They are. I guess, yeah, we can let you know that much. That, like, within the context of watching Deep Space Nine and seeing this episode come on, there is no question as soon as those cops show up, they are villains, because the actors who portray them are villainous villainous characters.
Yep.
So even before they're horrible racist assholes, you know that they're horrible assholes. You just don't know that they're going to be also racist.
That seems really hard because there's like a whole crowd shouting at the cops to stop, and it really seems like because
they're the ones with the power.
It's still going on. And that's exactly what's happening still. People are yelling at the cops to stop their abuse, to stop killing their young men, essentially.
And women.
And it just seems like they're not listening.
The silence is deafening.
Yeah.
So the priest actually says something here that kind of like just really hit me. He said, "Hope and despair walk arm in arm."
Yeah.
I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, fuck. I don't
know.
I don't know what to say except for that. I mean, this was written in the 90s by somebody looking back on the 50s and clearly with a perspective of like, how can this happen? How can this still be happening today in the 90s? And now we're, 25, 30 years later, and we're all still asking the same questions. And that's...
Enough is enough,
heartbreaking.
We just gotta point this stuff out. We gotta... I mean, obviously, us being white males, we have privilege, but I think that means that we have to use it, We have to, raise up other voices and really get the message out there.
Yeah. Speaking of voices not being able to be out there, Act 5 also sucks.
But it's great. I mean,
because
it's heartbreaking, but this is like one of the best scenes in Star Trek, I think.
Yeah. So Benny is still recovering from his injuries. He's got a cane. For a second, I thought he was blinded by the glasses she put on him, but I guess he just couldn't be on the cane and also put his glasses on. But in any case, he heads into the office because the magazine should be being delivered today, and it features his first Benjamin Sisko story, presumably with the change that it's a dream. Except that it turns out that the entire issue is pulped. The publisher said it did not stand up to their usual quality standards, which is code for we're not going to feature a story with a black man in it. And there's an incredible scene of Benny standing up for the fact that he's not going to be silenced.
Try to stay calm, Benny. No, I'm tired of being calm. Calm never got me a damn thing.
I'm warning you, Benny, if you don't stop this, I'm going to call the police.
You go ahead, call them! Call anybody you want. They can't do anything to me. Not anymore, and nor can any of you. I'm a human being, damn it.
Yeah, and he ends up passing out and then waking up next to the preacher, who tells him that he is the dreamer, and then Ben Sisko wakes up in sickbay, surrounded by his family and his friends, and has a closing scene with his dad where he talks about understanding that he needs to keep fighting, he needs to keep working to finish the job he started, but wonders if this is all someone's dream, while seeing Benny's reflection in the window, which is weird. I don't like that ending.
Yeah,
you didn't like that?
We need to talk about the scene, obviously.
Okay, I'd love to hear your opinions.
Yeah, let's talk about.
Let's talk about the details first, right? Like,
I don't like it because I don't understand what that ending is trying to say. It feels like it's supposed to be really poignant, and I don't get what it is. I mean, I guess unless it is supposed to be Ben Sisko, or rather, it is the show reminding us that we should be working towards Ben Sisko's future, which I agree with that principle, but who's Ben Sisko talking to when he says that? Because like it's within character, it doesn't work for me. But as a message of like we can get to a better place, I like it. That we should strive, we should dream of a better place and strive to get there. But I don't like Ben Sisko because Ben Sisko just sounds like one of those people who's like, you guys ever think about how like maybe we're in the Matrix right now?
Oh man.
Oh fuck.
Whoa,
And
man.
I don't like that.
You mean everyone who ever brings up the simulation?
Right. Yeah. It just. I mean,
if
like,
it
it
is,
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
How does it affect me as a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a mindfuck right there. That's a whole different topic. But so Sisko in this scene, was he talking to his dad? Or was he talking to... Okay.
Yeah.
So he was talking to his dad.
Yeah.
I was thinking if it was just himself, it might have been a captain's log, but...
Oh, man.
No.
Sorry.
Captain's
You
log.
talking about Sisko talking to himself?
I mean, he does do that.
I think
there's an
am.
episode about that.
That's what I was just going to say. Is you saying that reminded me of that episode? And I'm kind of want to be like, let's go watch that episode right after this. God, let's watch the heaviest episodes of Star Trek in a row and just really have a bad day.
That's what DS9's great for, though. You know? Ask the
Having a
big
bad
questions. Like whether we're the dream or the dreamer. The dreamer or the dream.
What was... Okay. So, it's real. Benny Russell, not Benjamin Sisko. Benny Russell has the scene where he finds out that his story is being pulped. And... gets fired, naturally, because why wouldn't he? For, writing a story for the magazine that hired him to write stories. And he basically his scene here is about how his voice has been taken, or rather they're trying to take his voice away, but he is not going to let them take it away because they cannot stop him from having this dream, this idea of a better future, no matter what they try to do. And I think it's amazing. Eric, it sounds like you think it's amazing.
I really do. I think this isn't just one of the best moments of Star Trek. It's not just one of the best moments of Deep Space Nine or Star Trek. It's one of the best moments in science fiction. I think this is powerful stuff, and this is why the genre exists.
You can deny me all you want, but you cannot deny Ben Sisko exists. That future, that space station, all those people, they exist in here. In my mind, I created it. And every one of you know it. You read it. It's here. You hear what I'm telling you?
MC, you've seen this before, obviously. Does that scene work for you? That it's real to me? Or he doesn't say...
Yes.
I always think it's real to me, but he doesn't say it's real to me.
Yeah.
He just says it's real.
It exists in his mind.
It exists.
Well, especially as someone who is a creative and likes to write, especially in the science fiction and fantasy genres, it's like you have to at least feel a little bit like this place is real to bring out that feeling and the imagination of your reader. You want them to see this place inside their head.
Yeah. You have to have an element of reality in there. It's suspension of disbelief. There's fantastical elements, but they have to relate to it.
So Tyler, as somebody who's new to seeing Avery Brooks on screen, did the It's Real scene, was it too over the top for you, or did it feel good?
Like him talking about
where he's having his
the world being like it existing in his mind. All that. It was a little weird to me.
They exist in here, in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I expected. Like I said, Avery Brooks uses his voice as a weapon, or Sisko does. Avery Brooks does. Anyway, sometimes he goes real big, and this is
like Shatner big
from an acting perspective. It is like out there how this breakdown is portrayed, but I think if you are familiar with Sisko, it is a little more poignant. Because Sisko does have moments like this, and they are always super significant. But this is way beyond any other outburst type thing.
So you got Picard, who doesn't really show a lot of emotion. Sisko feels his feels, and he lets everyone know.
Yeah, yeah, and often it's very quietly. If he's disappointed, if he is disappointed, you're going to know he's disappointed, and he's going to start talking like this to you about how disappointed he is. And then if you don't understand that he's telling you that you need to change, he will start doing this and get real loud. And it's like,
shit.
Man, Sisko's scary, like when he lets loose. And I think that this scene is made better by like having seen some of like Avery Brooks's range and acting techniques.
Yeah.
But I think the message, like MC was saying, is so good, no matter what.
Yeah, it's really like he's telling not just the people in that room that he's not going to let he's essentially saying that to the audience, and
that he's not going to be silenced.
Like,
he's not going to give up.
Yeah, and it's really like the way that he breaks down and he gets taken away, and it's when he's in the ambulance getting taken away to wherever they're going to take him that the priest shows back up and says, "You're the dreamer."
Yep. You're the dreamer in the dream.
And he's back to being Ben Sisko on the space station.
Yep.
And
then the doctor's like,
scene,
his brain's fixed. I don't know how, but it is.
Yeah.
That happens a lot on Star Trek. The doctor's like, but I don't know.
I like how they had all his family there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all just like, "You're okay," and it's his girlfriend, fiance. I can't remember.
I don't remember what their status is.
Yeah,
I think just girlfriend.
But yeah, and it's like he's in this fairly good place where after that dream, like it's like everything sort of comes down right at the end of that scene, sort of.
Yeah, and they don't really make a connection to like what the 24th century's racial equality situation is. And I mean, I think it's assumed from just knowledge of Star Trek in general that it's fine, like that by the 24th century racism has been fixed. And I think that's if there is a weakness in this episode, it's that there's no interrogation of what that looks like, because like, you know, we all know today that it's not fixed. Like there's been progress since the 1950s, but it's certainly not fixed. And
I'll even say that we've had some small progress since the 90s. Like it's nowhere near enough.
But in some ways we've regressed a little. You know, the fact that
and
there's so much vitriol out there that, you know, fascists are a thing now. You know, we thought we had defeated this. You know, like there's a resurgence of this old world mentality of white supremacy, and it's scary, but it could just be the dying gasp. You know, you know what I mean? Like the dying.
That's gotta be the
like
hope.
This could just be the last of it, and that's you gotta hope, right?
I think that's what I feel like is missing from this. Is this gives you like an aspirational goal of like getting to that point, but it doesn't give any guidance except for keep talking about it. Like I feel like that's, you know, that's kind of the point of that It's Real scene to me is like keep talking about it, keep hoping for it.
Don't let the dream die.
Keep the idea alive. Yeah, don't let the dream die.
The symbology of the dream, you know, obviously MLK's I Have a Dream speech comes to mind. I guess I got a question for y'all. Do you think that Benny Russell within canon is a real person? Do you think that Sisko was reliving a real memory of someone in the past, and that they just so happened to get it right, get the future right?
You think this was a racial memory?
I didn't mean that. No.
No. Oh.
This is official canon terminology.
For any new listeners, that's a joke from a previous episode, from a TOS episode. That was
That's from Cat's Paw.
That was a line Cat's Paw. That was a line that Spock used.
Yep, they created a Halloween planet based on Kirk's racial memories. Anyways,
Sorry. It sounds so stupid when you say it out loud.
There's also canon for the multiverse, so it could actually be another universe, 1950.
Can we just ignore that episode because the other one there's not a multiverse in Star Trek. It's only in that one episode in the J.J. Abrams movie.
The Kelvinverse.
It's not a multiverse. There's one timeline. There's one timeline.
Was it Tapestry? No, not Tapestry.
There is
the one with Worf. You know which one I'm talking about?
Dang!
It's such a good episode.
But there's also all the other episodes where they interact with the multiverse that you're forgetting.
There's a few.
It's one universe.
One main other universe.
No,
not the Prime timeline.
Yeah,
not the Kelvin timeline.
That's a different universe, not a different timeline. It's a different thing entirely.
I'm talking about multiple.
The universe that we're talking about diverged at a very specific point.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. Put your switch away, Tyler.
This will all be very interesting in about a year when we get into a few more episodes.
So, can I make this heavy again for a second before we ask Tyler his last things?
Okay.
This episode was actually directed by Avery Brooks, the actor who portrayed Benjamin, Sisko, and Benny, and he had a quote on it from the Deep Space Nine companion that I found on Memory Alpha that I want to read. That says, "If we had changed the people's clothes, this story could be about right now." And he said that in the 90s, and it fits today. He goes on to say, "What's insidious about racism is that it is unconscious. Even among these very bright and enlightened characters, a group that includes a woman writer who has to use a man's name to get her work published and is married to a brown man with a British accent in 1953, it's perfectly reasonable to coexist with someone like Pabst. It's in the culture, it's in the way people think." And I wanted to read that because it still fits today. And I think that what I take from this episode is the hope that we'll get to a point where that won't be the case, and where this will feel like a time capsule instead of
100%.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be less than 400 years.
For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, according to Star Trek canon, all we have to do is go through World War III and have the world destroyed, and then build a missile silo in Montana, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
I mean,
so we just got to have all that happen first. Well, that already happened. That happened in the late 90s. So.
Multiverse, man. Multiverse.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, like, I don't remember seeing it on CNN.
Every time I think about World War III, which is unfortunately more than I would like, I think about, like, what it's going to be in the history books. And, it's like, what was World War II? It was the something heard around the world.
The shot? No.
I can't remember. No.
The shot heard around the world?
It was like, there's like a keg. I can't remember. Anyways.
A keg?
Yes. Like an exploding keg, not like a beer keg.
I should know this.
I can't think of the phrase.
Yeah.
It's okay. Anyways, I think like it's going to be started on Twitter. It's going to be the tweet heard around the world.
That depresses me. That depresses me so much.
Hey, I was going to do this as like a last thought at the end of the episode, but I'll do it now. Things people can do. You can get out and protest if you can. But if you can't, the most important thing that you can do right now is vote. And listen, I don't like Biden. I will go on the record and say I don't like Biden. But the way our busted system works, and I'm borrowing this from a podcast called Minority Corner, is that come January, either Biden or Trump is going to be president.
I think that's the reality.
And the world will be better off if it's Biden. He is not my first choice. He's not my 15th choice. But the world will be better off if he's the one in office than if Trump is. So go vote. Vote in the presidential elections, but vote in your local elections too. Because there are two ways this gets changed. And one is by getting good people into the system, and the other is by seeing the system completely destroyed. And I think one of the two of those is going to happen at some point in our lifetime.
It would be nicer if we could get this done through voting, through democracy.
It would be a hell of a lot safer.
If you look
for a
at
lot of
history,
people.
revolutions never like they're. Yeah,
a revolution would. Both. It is sad that both options will mean the loss. Both options will mean the loss of a lot more lives, and that's fucked up, and it's awful that that's the case. But I like I said, I think one of the two is going to happen, and we may as well, as long as the system's also being torn down, let's try to get good people into the system while it's standing, and see if there's something to be recovered there.
Definitely.
Can I just add a little something? If you are going out protesting, remember, take masks.
You still have going on.
Wear long sleeve shirts, jumpers, long pants. Have gloves as well. We are in the middle of a pandemic still, so be safe. Take care of yourselves. But also, those things will help if the police do start using tear gas and pepper spray. Not having exposed skin that could get burnt by those chemicals as well is also good. If you believe that there will be a suppression on you by the police, sports equipment, sports gear is a fairly cheap option for protection gear that you could probably get that will at least minimize the damage done by rubber bullets and the like. You might also want to contact your local live-action role-playing groups. They will teach you how to craft lightweight armor and shields. It's a skill that you might want to pick up.
But try to avoid it. Keep yourself safe. Try not to.
That's the first thing. We want you to stay safe out there.
So anyway, this episode's pretty good. I think this is good. Star Trek's good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tyler?
Yep. It was a really good episode. It's unfortunately, hopefully not timeless, but unfortunately, 22 years later, still, hits hard. I do want to nitpick at something. So maybe if I had greater context of Deep Space Nine as a whole, it would make sense why Cisco is having this dream. If racism has been fixed in the Star Trek universe for centuries, I assume, I don't know why his mind would go to the 50s.
Well,
the 1950s.
So I sort of have an answer. Okay.
I sort of do too. Go ahead, Eric. I'll give mine after.
Through this vision, Cisco realizes that he can't just give up because things are getting hard. He realizes the fight is worth it. I think the metaphor of what's going on back in the 50s and today, unfortunately, is just sort of used as a framing device for Cisco to realize the decisions he has to make. That he can't give up. They can't turn his back on Starfleet. Okay. He has to fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it probably would have made more sense if I knew what his whole what decision he made. Why is he so stressed out? Why is his
there's
brain
some
doing
heavy
this?
stuff going on outside of this episode in the series. They're in the middle of a galactic conflict.
There's some explanation for why he can have, or why he is having such a such a vision, as opposed to just a daydream type thing. There's some explanation for that. And I think I'm trying to remember specifics, but I don't think they talk about racism ever being a present issue. But Benjamin Sisko is somebody who is kind of connected with his roots, and so I think he's that's still something that he's aware of, is kind of the history of being a person with dark skin. That is still something that he is cognizant of. I cannot think of when it gets discussed, but I feel like there is a specific discussion about that at some point, but it is not in the context, from what I can recall, of him having ever experienced any specific prejudice in the 24th century, but being aware that prejudice happened, and that is something that is still an important part of his personal history. Like being aware of that still matters to him. I think. I just can't think of where. So maybe I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm thinking of something else. Who knows? I've watched a lot of Star Trek and a lot of other things.
One other random question is just, so Cisco and his dad mentioned the Bible. I was just curious if the Bible ever... Does that come up on Star Trek ever, if often, other than this?
It's very rare.
Religion exists in the 24th century. Christianity doesn't come up terribly often, but it does come up occasionally.
There are different religions that are brought up that are fictional.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into that more when it comes up, because I know with a few very specific examples, and I really want to talk about it. But there's a certain Kirk line.
Oh, yeah. It took me a second to remember. Yeah. To remember what line you meant.
I am Karak.
It's better than that.
No, it's better than that. Not that religion. What else do we ask at the end of this?
Was Major buried in this episode?
Was it God that one time? No, we're not going to ask that anymore because we already told him about the thing. Characters. So we already talked about science and technobabble kind of with your question just there. What about characters? Like, I guess both within what you've seen of Deep Space Nine, but also within the setting of the 1950s role. I'm curious which characters you like.
Okay, I think. So so I really liked seeing, like I mentioned before, Worf. Well, I guess
Willie.
I forgot his name. Michael.
Dorn. Michael Dorn. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Okay, yeah, I liked seeing him get to play a different character essentially, and I thought he was great as that character. It was really likable, even though I feel like you shouldn't have liked him because he was kind of like against the protagonist a bit, but they also seemed to be like friends at the same time because he was trying to kill his girlfriend. But yeah, he was very likable.
I love Michael Dorn.
Who else stood out? Benny obviously stood out. I liked him. I thought it was really interesting that at least some of his colleagues were like supportive, like they stood up to their boss.
I just realized something. Sorry. The kid who gets shot, that's Cisco's son.
Uh-huh.
Dang.
Yeah.
Who
I don't think we see as Jake Sisko in this episode, do we?
We do. He's in the beginning.
I just, for some reason, it didn't really cross my mind. And I was like, wait, the mustache.
It's the mustache.
Yeah.
It fooled me like Clark Kent's glasses,
Maybe that's why I was like, I don't know if the age difference makes sense. Was he like 2 when he had this kid?
You kind of get to see Jake grow up a little bit on the show, which is cool.
He is such a baby at the start of the show.
Oh, really?
He's so little.
I love the fact that Jake Sisko is a writer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, spoilers. He doesn't know that.
I didn't really mention that. That didn't come up.
But yeah, there wasn't really anyone that I didn't like other than, you're not supposed to like some people in this episode.
Mm.
Cop number 2 was
like the cops were great.
Sorry.
Cop number 2 is one of my actually both of the cops are like some of my favorite characters in Deep Space Nine.
Didn't want to commit
They're
to
despicable, but they're great.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing, like, you can enjoy a character because they are an evil or bad character. You can enjoy that because it's 100%. A piece of fiction. And those characters are good at being bad, which makes the whole episode just.
I love both of those actors. We'll see a lot of them later on.
Yeah.
Yep. What as the cops, like with the gangster sling, you know what I mean, lingo.
I think that's it, right?
I think so.
Did we do all the things?
There's a lot to cover. I mean. There's not a lot that happens in this episode. Plot-wise, it's... Yes.
Oh. Did we do a poll?
We didn't.
Did we talk about the
not
poll?
This time.
No.
Okay.
Because this was kind of a last-minute change, so... I think we can just go to plugs. Except for, can I hijack the plugs this week?
Before plugs, Tyler? We have to pick what we're watching next because.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The short trek.
Yeah, so I'm going to be out of town next weekend, so we won't be able to record an episode. So we're going to do a short trek episode because that will take less time. And then after that, it'll be Menage a Troy. I lost the dice. I already rolled it.
So he's picking from the first season of Short Trek episodes by rolling a dice, and we've jumbled up the order so they're not in the order they came out.
Okay, so I dropped the dice trying to pick it up, and it landed on a 4. So
it landed on 4. So I'm actually not going to be able to record with you guys for this one. So I'm sad that I'm going to miss it because I think you recorded the one I was most looking forward to. It's called The Brightest Star. Yes,
you need to send in your thoughts, man.
So, The Brightest Star is the episode you'll be listening to. Yeah, I can send in I can record something separate and we can patch it in there.
Cool. Are there trailers for short tracks? I assume probably
they're
not because they're short.
No.
Yeah,
because they're so short. So yeah, The Brightest Star will be next, and I'm gonna say in lieu of our normal plugs, I'm gonna tell you guys if you want to listen to podcasts right now. You already know where to find all of us. Instead, I want to give you guys a resource to find some new podcasts to listen to, which is a website called podcastincolor.com, which is just a directory of podcasts that feature people of color on them. Because, like I said at the beginning, I think it's very easy for us to accidentally get into echo chambers where we're listening to a lot of people who have similar worldviews to us. And just like this episode was talking about, one of the most important things that a person has is their voice and their ability to share their stories. So if you like podcasts, I would absolutely encourage you to go to podcastincolor.com and you will absolutely find a new podcast to listen to that you will love. They have a really good breakdown where it's broken down by directory. So there's like a whole section of gaming podcasts. There's a whole section of TV podcasts. There's a whole section of clothing podcasts. Like anything you want to listen to a podcast about, they have shows for you there. So go listen to some new podcasts. Go listen to people of color. Listen to the people who are grieving and find ways that you can help. Like I said, there's a lot of resources you can donate to, but the freest thing that you can do is listen to people. And that's something that is not
100%.
happening enough in the world right now. Sorry, Tyler, I didn't tell you in advance that I was going to do that.
I was going to suggest you do that, but we just didn't talk about it. So
yeah.
Oh, good. Just keep. It's
it's a hard.
This is a hard one, man.
It's uncomfortable, but I think it's important.
It is a hard time.
It's. I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We just got to keep on hoping, keep on fighting, keep on talking about it.
Yep.
We should keep on talking.
So
let's just keep on talking.
We can't just transport to a better future, but we can hope for one. And so we're going to go do that. For
Practicing some more in the mirror.
I take a screenshot of you guys and I just like. Sorry, that's yeah.
Tape up the 3 pictures with you in the corner.
I critique myself every time I listen to these, and I'm like, I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not getting my transporter on.
This has been a presentation
of the We Can Make This Work
Probably Network.
Follow us on Twitter
@ProbablyWork
for more of our questionable content.
Also, we have a website called probablywork.com.